Hi, hello. I'm filming this on June 24th. I just got a haircut, but then I also walked like 2 kilometers in blistering heat, so it's all messed up. But the important thing is I no longer have like a weird, horrifying mullet situation going on, and I'm feeling myself a little bit now that my hair does not look like absolute crap. So I figured I'd do a get ready with me, talk a little bit about things I have learned from this whole like Shane Dawson, Jeffree Star mess, and also just give y'all a little bit of an update. So let me actually put my hair back a little bit, or at the very least my bangs. And I agree, this is not my hottest look, but that's fine. I'm not going to rehash everything to do with the Shane Dawson Jeffree Star situation. I'm going to link some videos either like up in the cards or down in the description box below, which will give you a rundown of the details of the situation if for some reason you've been like living under a rock and you don't know what those are. But the Cliff Notes version is that Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star have both been found out to have been involved in the takedown of James Charles last year. And Shane Dawson released like a freaking iOS press release from his Notes app or whatever in the middle of the night that absolutely just like no one asked for, but go off my dude, I guess, in which he called out the entire beauty community for being like toxic and whatnot. And he topped it all off by saying he was now going to leave the beauty community. And that to me was really confusing because I'm like, I don't know what beauty community Shane Dawson thinks he's a part of, but it's definitely not the one that the rest of us have all been a part of, because I've never seen that man upload a makeup video in his damn life. But a lot of people, a lot more informed on me on the situation, have already made this point really well. And like I said, I'm gonna link all of their stuff like down in the description box below. The thing that's really been sticking with me for the last couple of days is the fact that a lot of people have decided that they're gonna unstan Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson now because of the revelations that have come out now. I keep thinking about that. And the thing I've come to realize, the lesson I'm taking away from all of this, the issue that I actually want a lot more people to think about in the public, is the way in which we as a society, we as a community on YouTube, systematically devalue and dismiss things that Black people say. Now I know I just said that and some of you just went like, whoa girl, where are you going with this? You just took like 15 different leaps. I don't understand what happened. Don't worry, I'm gonna connect the dots for you. Because here's the thing. People of color, Black people specifically, Black women especially, have been doing a full Beyonce, ringing the goddamn alarm about Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star for a while now. For a while. Like if you talk to any Black person who is part of the YouTube beauty community and you ask them for their opinion around like Shane Dawson, Jeffree Star, guaranteed the vast majority of them will be like, I don't fuck with either of those two guys because they're racist and problematic. At the time that Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson's documentary first came out, there were a bunch of Black YouTubers, as told by Kenya, Amanda Beebe, DiAngelo Wallace, I think T from Nappy Headed Jojoba also made like a video about it. Tons of Black content creators who discussed how problematic Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star both were, and who posited that the entire documentary series as well as the palette was just a like shameless cash grab on Shane Dawson's part. But here's the deal. Nobody listened to those people. Just like how for years on end, Jeffree Star has been outright racist to Black female content creators on YouTube and to just Black people generally, and tons of people have just completely dismissed those allegations. Because here's the thing, I've been watching beauty YouTube for a while now, and I remember when the allegations against Jeffree Star first saying the N-word and then calling Jackie Aina a gorilla, etc. first came out, it actually turned a lot of people against Jeffree Star. There were a lot of people who were like, yikes, this guy was really racist, he never really apologized for it because he had not posted any sort of an apology at that point in time. And they actually disassociated themselves from Jeffree Star. They refused to support him. There were, of course, a whole bunch of people who were still Jeffree Star fans, but it seemed for like half a second that the Black women who were speaking out were being heard, or at the very least were being heard by more than just like other Black women. It seemed like people were taking them seriously. That was until a white guy called Shane Dawson decided to come out with the statement that, hey, Jeffree Star's not a racist. He's not a terrible human being. I, fellow white person Shane Dawson, don't think he's that bad of a person. And all of a sudden, it was like tons of people decided that they were going to take the white man's word for Jeffree Star's character over the words of all these black content creators and people who were insisting that no, Jeffree Star was in fact racist and mean and not a very good person. And it's this thing right here that I really want to talk about, right? It's this phenomena that I find so fucking interesting, because what it speaks to is how little we value the thoughts and opinions of people of color, and actually very specifically of black people. Because let's be real, like, black people at the bottom of the racial hierarchy, they have to deal with shit not just from white people, but from all of the other POC communities as well. Let us not forget that there have been a bunch of black people murdered by like Asian police officers. And so to me, all of these people who are somehow only just now deciding that the time is ripe to unstand Shane Dawson or Jeffree Star, when in fact, black people have been saying that they're problematic and that you shouldn't stand them for ages, that to me is indicative of the larger problem in society at hand, which is that black people just don't matter. Their lives don't matter, their opinions don't matter, their voices don't matter. And it's evident in society in really like large, macro, violent ways, such as like police brutality and murder, but also in this much like smaller, more inconsequential, superficial arena of the beauty community. The root of it all is the same. It's a devaluation of black people's opinions and thoughts. Anybody who had actually been paying any attention to Jackie Aina, to Amanda Beebe, to As Told by Kenya, to Nappy Headed Hoba, to DiAngelo Wallace, would have unstand Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson long before now. And the fact that so many people didn't, the fact that it is only now beginning to hurt their careers, it's really just a testament to casual racism, right? Because that's what it is. It's the casual racism of, I just don't trust what Jackie Aina or Nappy Headed Hoba or like As Told by Kenya or anyone is saying, as much as I trust the words, thoughts, and opinions of the white people involved in the situation, Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star. And I think it's really, really telling that offenses committed primarily against black women, calling somebody a gorilla, saying the N-word, putting on blackface for a parody caricature of a black woman, relying on really terrible and horrible racist stereotypes, those were somehow not cancelable enough offenses, because the hurt that was being committed was primarily to black women. But now that it's coming out that Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson actually tried to hurt a white man, James Charles, this is the straw that's breaking the camel's back. This offense against a white person is the one that everyone's taking seriously. This injury is the one that matters, right? And I feel like it's a really interesting parallel to how when black people were getting murdered in the streets, it wasn't like visceral or real to anybody, but now that we see videos of police like just fucking up white protesters, right? Just not giving a damn, hosing them down, slamming them down onto the ground like that gentleman in Buffalo. Now that we see like the extent to which the brutality affects white people, everyone's shook. Even people who weren't shook at the death of George Floyd or Breonna Taylor, etc., etc. And for anyone who thinks that I'm like stretching this parallel too much, I want to actually talk for a second about the term mansplaining, right? It's a term everyone uses now, and the way in which it's used nowadays makes it seem like mansplaining is something that's really like innocuous. It's a microaggression, it's something really minor. But the term mansplaining was actually popularized in this incredibly effective essay called Men Explain Things to Me by Rebecca Solnit. Rebecca Solnit is not the person who came up with the term mansplaining, but her essay, Men Explain Things to Me, it's the essay that's most frequently cited and thrown around when people want to actually discuss what mansplaining is and how it affects people. And the really fascinating thing about that essay is that it opens with just a microaggression. Some, blowhard dude at a party tries to explain the premise of Rebecca Solnit's own book back to her because he doesn't realize It didn't possibly occur to him that the book that he was talking about, a woman could have wrote it, and that perhaps she was more educated and informed on the topic at hand. So that's very clearly a microaggression. You're like, yeah, mansplaining is just like, it's a tiny inconvenience, it's a microaggression, you don't need to be that stressed about it, it's not the end of the world. However, Rebecca Solnit very quickly and deftly draws a nice, neat little line between that tiny little microaggression at the beginning and how this culture of men explaining things and speaking over women contributes greatly to rape culture. Because essentially, when an allegation of assault comes about, it's usually a he said, she said. And what happens is, as a society, we tend to take the explanation posited by the man at greater face value than the explanation posited by the woman. We dismiss the woman's real lived experience of having been assaulted and instead buy into the man's explanation.
Hi. Hello, it's Editing Prachi here. I ended up losing some footage because I didn't realize my camera had stopped recording because my card had gotten full. But the point that I'm trying to make, the point that Rebecca Solnit makes, is that at the root of both that douchebag at a party assuming that he knew more about Rebecca Solnit's book than Rebecca Solnit herself, and at the root of men assuming that they know what a woman means, and men speaking over and talking over women in the context of consent, in the context of explanations of assault, etc. The root of both of those situations is this aspect of misogyny, this fundamental belief that women are just lesser than men, that men know better than women, that men are more credible than women, that men are more trustworthy than women, that given any sort of topic or issue, the man knows best, and that it is his word that we should take at face value. It is obvious and natural that the man's explanation is the best, the most valid, the most credible, and the one to be believed.
Now take every single thing I just said about men and women and apply it in the context of race. When something happens to people of color, and especially particularly to Black people, we don't listen to them. We don't listen to their stories, we don't listen to their explanations, and we will in fact listen to the explanations, justifications, and ideas of everybody who isn't Black before we listen to the actual Black person. A cop murders an innocent Black man. Black people are like, this is police brutality, this was a straight up murder. The cop, usually a white dude, tries to explain away the situation, and historically as a society, we always buy the cop's explanation. We always buy white people's explanations for things before we buy anything else. All of these women of color are like, Jeffree Star is racist and problematic, Shane Dawson is racist and problematic, but one white dude, one white man rides up onto the scene on his dumb little knight's horse to declare, no, let me explain what's happening to you ladies. Jeffree Star is not a racist, he's not a bad person, he's not problematic. Watch this documentary series where I explain his entire personality to you. And we as a society, we as the beauty community, for the large part, buy that white person's explanation over every single thing that Black people have then been saying. Again, this is not everybody. There have been a lot of non-Black people who are like, fuck Jeffree Star. But the fact that like Shane Dawson's documentary caused a bunch of people to then give Jeffree Star a pass, that does not sit right with me. It has never sat right with me, and I've never quite had the language to express it into words until now. Because for the last couple of weeks, I've been like not posting any content. I've just been like reading and listening and doing a lot of like work. And I'm like, oh, I finally have the language to explain why I was so uncomfortable with the fact that everybody took Shane Dawson's word on Jeffree Star's character over the words of all of these other Black women and just Black content creators in general. And the thing is, these are just like my thoughts, my take, and I totally could have just like kept it to my damn self. But the reason why I even brought it up is because like this mindset, if you have it or have displayed it, even just in the context of the beauty community, it behooves you to then ask yourself if maybe you have demonstrated it in other areas of your life. Because the beauty community is a microcosm, small scale of real life. If you find that you're consistently not listening to Black people in the beauty community, are you listening to Black people in other arenas of life? And I'm saying you, but it's like me, I have to make sure all the time that like I am not buying into that rhetoric. And I think it's like really important to remember that racism and anti-Blackness, it isn't just about police brutality. It isn't just the really, really big macro level systemic things that need to be fixed, because for sure those need to be fixed and they require a higher amount of our attention and energy. But going to a protest and saying that you're anti-Black doesn't mean anything if you don't actually treat Black people in your life and in your communities properly. Because you can say everything that you want to say and pay all the lip service that you want to pay on the internet, and you can like post your little Black squares and you can donate your money and stuff, but then if in your own life and in your own communities you just like devalue and dismiss things that Black people say, like how much do Black lives and Black people actually matter to you? This got surprisingly really heavy. Anyway, that's everything I had to say on that, because it's like I'm not actually interested in going over the details of the drama. I don't actually care what necessarily happens to like Jeffree, Shane, James Charles, because the reality is they're all multimillionaires. Even if nobody supports them starting from tomorrow, they have so much money, they're gonna be fine for the rest of their lives. So like the full-blown details of what was going on, etc., Shane Dawson's like weird whack statements and Game of Thrones analogies and stuff, like that's literally white noise, like no relevance to me. I don't care about that. What I'm much more concerned about is like how are we all responding to what's going on, and how can we make sure as a beauty community that like we're listening, right? And we don't erase or talk over Black people when they say that something's hinky, something's off, something is like not right. It's not even really about Shane Dawson or Jeffree Star. It's just given the times that we're currently living in, I have been thinking about a lot of things through the lens of race, and this was just such like a obvious glaring example of lots of white people only listening to white people and valuing what they had to say over POC. Black women especially. Because shit, it's not even just white people who are out there supporting Jeffree Star. Because I've seen like lots of Asian people buying stuff from Jeffree Star, and I'm like, ma'am, like what the fuck are you doing? Like, are you okay? Like, what goes on? No wonder Black people are always like, POC solidarity is a scam, because the number of times like Asians and non-Black Latinx people have just thrown Black people under the bus, like, whew. Anyway, pause. I'm gonna put on some eyeliner and then I will be right back to give y'all a little bit of a life update, channel update, what goes on. Anyway, moving on to slightly more pleasant stuff. I've kind of taken the last few weeks to sort of take in more content, and specifically I mean to take in like long form content, because I think Twitter is all like well and good as a way to sort of like get information on what's going on right here right now, but in terms of something like, oh, you know, like abolishing the police, and what does that look like, and what does that mean when people say defund the police or abolish the police versus reform the police, and are there places that have tried that, and what does that look like? That's not really something that you can like get a comprehensive understanding of in like 240 characters or whatever. It would have to be like the world's longest Twitter thread in order to make that explanation happen. So instead I've kind of gone back to long form explanations and thoughts, and by that what I mean is predominantly like books. I spent the last couple of weeks actually in my free time like reading books on white fragility, on the prison system, on the way in which like racism affects individuals, and on what it means when people say abolish or defund the police. I've also been reading like long form blog posts and essays and articles on issues of race in the US, and because in Canada it's like anti-Blackness when it comes to the police is very, very real, but there's another group of people who have a very fraught relationship with police in Canada, and that's First Nations Indigenous people. I did not grow up in Canada, and quite frankly, even if I had grown up to Canada and gone to school in Canada, this is not a thing that they teach in school. The same way that they don't teach like the real effects of Jim Crow or segregation or modern day police brutality in American schools. But just generally, I have less of an understanding of Canadian history than somebody who was born and raised here. Because I was 17 when I moved here, I've never taken a Canadian history course in my entire life. So I've been doing a bunch of readings on Canadian histories and how Canada has addressed what it likes to call the Indian problem. And I had like no idea about how in my own country there's like an epidemic of missing and murdered indigenous women that the police do nothing about and are even like implicated in some cases. Like, it's crazy. That's kind of how I've been spending the last couple of weeks. I've been in a mode of receiving information and synthesizing information, and I just didn't feel like creating anything. I was like, this is a moment for me to actually step back and like learn as opposed to try and create. So just to like give y'all a little bit of an update on like what happened in May. So I filmed a whole bunch of stuff in like the first 2 weeks of May. Like from May 1st to like May 10th, I filmed a whole bunch of videos. And then a family member of mine died. I wore mostly white. I didn't wear makeup for like 13 days. So I wasn't like filming anything. And whatever videos I put out were basically the pre-recorded videos that I had filmed in like the first week and a half of May. So then the day after I got out of the official period of mourning, it was May 25th. I put on makeup for the first time in like 2 weeks, sat down in my living room and filmed back to back like a hits and misses video for May and my May check-in, because I was like, it's May 25th, baby, like the month's almost over. What else could possibly happen that's like relevant to me in the month of May? Like every single hero in a Greek tragedy, hubris turned out to be my fatal flaw. So I decided just like forget those videos. It feels so weird like even putting them out into this world. Like I went back to rewatch clips of the May check-in that I'd filmed before I sat down to film this, and like it feels really disingenuous to put that up as like my main check-in. And considering that like I started work again 2 weeks ago, like I got rehired at my old job and classes are going to be starting up soon because I'm enrolled in a couple courses in the second half of the summer, I'm like, you know, I think just figuring out what I want to say about all of May and June in one shot and filming it is probably the way to go. So I definitely apologize for anybody who was kind of like looking forward to my videos and was like, where's Prachi? She's been gone for like a month now. But I really needed the last like 4 weeks or so to get my head straight and to kind of reorient myself with the things that matter, not just in the context of this world and politically at large, but personally myself, given like the shit that I went through in the earlier part of May. So this is gonna be my look for the rest of the day as I'm just like chilling at home and doing nothing. Oh, as a side note, if you've been seeing something peeking out from under my scarf, the only band-aids I have in my house are like Avengers band-aids, so like say hello to Captain America over here, Black Widow over here. A couple weeks back, I put up a post in my community tab shouting out a bunch of like Black creators on YouTube who I've really enjoyed watching. I'm going to list all of those down below. I'm also going to list any of the books that I've been reading down below in case people are interested. And I think that's everything. As always, I hope you have a great upcoming week. And even if the rest of your week ends up becoming messy or imperfect, I hope that you're still able to create and experience some truly beautiful moments. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Bye.